Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Inside Inter Miami, the Miami Herald's Inter Miami podcast. And we are back with another episode. I'm Andre Fernandez, Deputy Sports Editor, joined once again by Miami Herald's Inter Miami writer and many more, soccer, you name it, Michelle Kaufman, everybody. And coming off another dramatic victory, stolen from the jaws of defeat by Inter Miami the other night. I mean, I don't know, Michelle. I was watching and following, and all of a sudden I'm thinking 4-2, about 20 minutes or so to go. And I even told my wife, I go, maybe this miracle run's ending. We're not sure. But then again, it's Messi. You never know. And I swear I told her that. I go, it is Messi. Let's see. 20 minutes later, we all saw what happened. They're still not only did they come back, dramatically came back in PKs. The beat goes on. The show continues.
Yeah, I mean, just when it looked like maybe, well, I don't want to say Messi is mortal, but that maybe this team's luck had run out a little bit. I mean, he did score in the 6th minute. Again, I mean, he has scored now 3 goals in the last 3 games in a row, scoring in the first 8 minutes. So he sets the tone pretty early and gets everybody fired up on the Inter Miami side, and on the other side, they have to be wondering when he's scoring in the first 8 minutes, like, oh God. He really is that good. No, he is just otherworldly. I mean, Leo Messi, I got to say, my daughter who played a lot of soccer, she called me after the game and she said, the hype is validated. The hype is validated. I mean, we all know that he was good and all that stuff, but to come in here and he scored 7 goals in 4 games, which already ties him for the team lead in scoring in 4 games. He's tied with Joseph Martinez, so who's taken 28 games to score 7 goals. So it's unbelievable what he's doing. The story continues, the storybook fairy tale. This team, I wrote today, that was that still is in last place, but had gone winless in 11 straight games. When Messi made his debut, they had not won in 11 straight games. And now they have won 4 in a row, decisively, close, decisively, whatever, exciting, dramatic wins. They are undefeated heading into the quarterfinals here of the Leagues Cup on Friday night against Charlotte. And it's Messi. I mean, without Messi, I don't think they win any of those 4 games. I really don't. I mean, I think he's the reason that they won. And again, scoring that tying goal on a free kick that was just as beautiful, almost exactly the way he did in the first game, just stands there very calmly like, okay, I think I'm going to place it into the upper right. Boom. Into the upper right it goes.
I know everybody's talking about the tying or the goals to catch up, but I'm telling you, even the first goal was probably the sickest one that he's had, just in terms of skill. I mean, you talk about left foot from the far corner, just outside the 18, and the goalie has no chance. I mean, you look at the Dallas defenders; they look clueless, like what just happened.
Right. Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. What he's doing is really, it's just been remarkable to watch. And, and it was fun. I was curious. It was his first road game. So I was really curious to see how everything would go with the road game. One thing is the security was really, really beefed up. One fan got arrested or, detained anyway for breaking through the barricade. They made a barricade at the team hotel when the team was arriving, and the players were getting off the bus, and one guy ran through and breached the perimeter, and they grabbed him right away. The other thing was, at the game, they didn't let any fans into the stadium until the Inter Miami team had entered the locker room, which was different from what they've ever done before at that stadium. So they made a new protocol so that the Inter Miami team, basically meaning Messi, could get into the locker room safely without, being bombarded with fans. So, then I was curious, are the people in Frisco, Texas at that game in Toyota Stadium, were they going to be for Messi? Were they going to be for Dallas? And there were a lot of Messi jerseys. It was basically Dallas jerseys and then blue and white.
A lot of Argentina.
A lot of Argentine national team jerseys. There were some black and pink mixed in there, but it was mostly Dallas fans and Argentina Messi jerseys. So those people were kind of conflicted because they're clearly Messi fans. They were wearing Messi jerseys, but a lot of them were from the Dallas area. So, but he got a very raucous and welcome, some were cheering, some were booing, but he was definitely the focal point of that game. And once again, he delivered. He delivered again. The guy just keeps on delivering.
Well, when he scored, let me tell you, and it was on the broadcast. You could if there were people booing, they were drowned out because it sounded like a home game. The place was going wild. I mean, they even acknowledged it. I know on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days. The MLS video clip that they posted, you could see the crowd and you could hear the crowd, and they even said something like, is this a home game for them? Because you could tell the amount of people that were there, and that was and like you said, that's what we were curious about. Would this be a traveling road show now with him? And it looks like it will be every time that they are.
Oh, absolutely. And then the other thing that happened after the game, which some of the Dallas fans called him out on social media. Some of their players, a handful of their players, during the handshakes, I mean, they have just lost. They've just been eliminated from the tournament, and they were basically almost lining up. It was almost like they were getting in queue to get pictures with Messi. They were posing for pictures with the guy who just knocked them out of the tournament. That did not sit very well with some of the Dallas fans that were trashing those players on social media. But I mean, the truth is, everybody is in awe. Everybody is in awe of this man and what he does night after night after night, what he's done to MLS. I mean, the attention to this tournament that no one had ever even heard of. What is Leagues Cup? It's a brand new tournament. That was the whole idea. This was a way to get publicity for this brand new tournament. And it's definitely working because no one even knew or talked about Leagues Cup. But all of a sudden, when Messi shows up, people now care about the Leagues Cup, at least in the Inter-Miami side of the bracket. I'm not sure if there's that much excitement yet, but every game that involves Messi is a really, really big deal. And whether it's home or on the road, it doesn't matter. He is the show. It is the traveling circus. It's the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, Messi circus. And it's really been fun to watch. And it's just incredible what he did. That tying goal was masterful. And then, of course, in the PKs, he goes out and like la-di-da, makes his PK like nothing. The guy is just so calm. He is just so calm. And you can just tell that his teammates, they just feel so much more confident knowing that he is on the field. We have Messi on our team, and therefore we have a chance. I think they go into every game thinking they have a chance to win, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, they now have a game, a quarterfinal against Charlotte on Friday. It's at home. They could win this cup. Why not? They treble. They could win all three. I really think anything's possible at this point. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You go from cellar dweller to the complete transformation to now maybe they might not lose again. I mean, and that's the thing. We say that, but then again, they were on the brink the other day. Like we said, 20 minutes to go. But it just shows you that with him in this lineup, anything's possible. They could just flip a switch and get a guy done. But that being said, we know Messi is accounting for, a lot of this, most of this. He's the spark. But there are some players on this team that are stepping up the level of play and have really gone a little bit overshadowed by all this Messi mania. One of them, you got a chance to get to know a little bit this week, and you have a big story coming out, which people can check out online as of Wednesday evening, and in the newspaper on Thursday on Benjamin Cremaschi, young 18-year-old kid. It's an
amazing story.
Amazing story. Yeah. Local guy from Key Biscayne, played a little bit at Mass Academy early in high school, and then Inter-Miami ends up signing him as a 17-year-old. And now look at him. Look at contributing to this team. Michelle, tell us a little bit about Benjamin and what you're doing.
I did a story on Benja. I spoke to him. I spoke to his father at length. I got interviews with them. And I wrote a big story, a big profile about him. It's just a great talk about a fairy tale. An 18-year-old local kid, Key Biscayne, but he's Argentine American. His family are very, very athletic. His father was on the national rugby team of Argentina, Los Pumas. So his dad played, rugby at a very high level, was on the national team of Argentina. His mother was a very high level competitive field hockey player. They have 4 siblings. Everybody plays sports. Everyone is obsessed with sports. And that family, they've been in Key Biscayne for 20 years, but the parents were born and raised in Argentina. They are Messi fanatics. They are Messi fanatics. They're fanatics of every Argentine player, but especially Messi. They grew up, all those kids watching every single time Messi was on TV, they had it on. And now to think that this 18-year-old boy, this teenager, is now the teammate of his boyhood idol. I mean, it's unbelievable to think, and his parents, I talked to his dad about what that feels like. They can't, the parents are still incredulous. The parents can't wrap their heads around the idea that their son is a teammate of Leo Messi. And his father said something to the effect of that they can't believe that their son scores a goal. Their little Benjamin scores a goal, and Leo Messi runs over to celebrate with him, to celebrate with their son. I mean, it's an incredible fairy tale. It really is a fairy tale story for the entire Cremaschi family, that they are Argentine sports nuts who are passionate Messi fans. And now Ben has one of his teammates and hangs out with him in the locker room and talks about how he just feels like he's his friend now. I wrote in the story that he's as comfortable around Leo Messi as he is around Leo Campana right now. That Leo Messi has been so humble. Everyone keeps talking about his humility, and Benja talked about it too. He's like, I was really nervous to meet him. He said, I have to admit, I was very nervous to meet him, and I had made all these scenarios in my head about what he was going to be like as a person. And he said, and the truth is, he's so much better than what I even thought he was going to be, that he's so friendly and so down to earth, and he makes everybody feel at ease. And so this kid who was in awe, in fact, he wears number 30. He wears number 30 as an homage to Messi. That was one of his first numbers in Barcelona. He made his debut at number 30, and then he wore it at PSG. So Cremaschi wears number 30. He's a huge Messi fan and said he always will be, even though he's his teammate now. It's an incredible story. And Cremaschi has really shown at such a young age, he's been a key player this season already. Even before Messi got here, he had shown flashes of his talent and his energy. The guy has a machine, an engine. He just goes and goes, and he has no fear. That's the thing. He came into the game the other day in the, I think, 64th minute. 1 minute later, on his first touch, his very first touch, he scores. He scores a go-ahead goal to make it. I think it was 3-2 at that point. It was such a wild game. It's hard to keep up. But, for this kid to come in off the bench and 1 minute later on his first touch, score a goal. And then the most amazing thing really was that when it came time for the PKs, the first 4 go, and it's, who you would think. It's Messi, it's Busquets, it's, Leo Campana, and Kamal Miller, veteran guys, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I see that little teenage kid walking out, and I'm like, what? He is going to take the 5th PK, the deciding PK. It's a huge responsibility, And he goes and he makes it like nothing, and that's it, and wins the game. He scores the game winner. And I asked Tata Martino, the coach, after the game, my question to him was, what went into your thinking of putting that kid in that position of that huge responsibility at that moment of the game? That was really kind of risky, don't you think? I mean, where did that come from? And he said that he walked up to Benja and said, do you want to take a PK? And Benja was like, yes. And he basically told him that he was convinced that he was going to make it, that he was feeling very confident. The coaches felt that he was playing with a lot of confidence. He also had only played 30 minutes because he came in the 65th minute. So they felt that it was a good decision to put him in, and he proved them right. But and when I asked Benha today about the PK, he said he knew all along he was going bottom right corner. He said, I knew before I even walked out there, I was going to go bottom right corner. I was just feeling so confident. I knew I was going to make it. He said it wasn't even a question. He was just feeling it. He was really feeling it. And so that kind of confidence is incredible. And he talked also just about, how having Messi around helps, and just how, everything that he's teaching and inspiring all these young players. So it's a really cool story. I mean, it was hard. I had to leave some stuff out. There was so much interesting stuff about this boy and his family and being from Argentina and playing with Messi and everything now. But that's been one of the really cool stories of this season, and especially since Messi arrived, to have the young 18-year-old Argentine kid playing with his boyhood idol.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of like how soccer provides that opportunity, whereas other sports, you imagine like if you're an 18-year-old football player, you're a freshman in college. You're not suddenly catching passes from Patrick Mahomes all of a sudden in an NFL game, or maybe if you're LeBron back in the day when you could jump in straight to the NBA from high school, maybe something like that. But if not, I mean, this is not, and then to have the chance to really truly interact with your idol and contribute to a team, like you said, the winning PK, to step up and to really have the poise to pull that off too, just remarkable for a kid that age.
So. Yes, no, it's amazing. I mean, it's a great story. He really is he's a good story, and I encourage everybody to go find my story on Benjamin Cremaschi and read that story, because you're going to learn a lot about him. It's a pretty cool story.
All right. Well, to continue the show, and before we head out to our look ahead to the quarterfinal round of the Leagues Cup, Michelle, we haven't done this yet. Let's talk a little bit about the U.S. women's team. Unfortunately, we would have liked to have better news about them right now to talk about, but a heartbreaking loss in PKs to Sweden in the round of 16. Overall, unfortunately, a disappointing turnout for the team. I mean, you've covered this team. You followed this team for a long time, too, and different iterations of them. But, I mean, their scoring pretty much vanished in this tournament outside of the first game against Vietnam. I mean, what did you kind of see, and what are some of the things that you think that, going forward, the national team can learn from this experience?
Yeah, it was extremely disappointing. I mean, round of 16 is the worst finish in history. I think they've made the semifinal every single World Cup. So, for them to be knocked out in the round of 16, a team that every single time at least makes the semifinal, it is a huge disappointment. I also think that it is a sign how badly they were trashed by the media and fans. I view that as a great sign of progress for women's sports, because there was a time, not too long ago, when it was just like, rah, rah, yay, women and girls are playing sports. Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this wonderful and fabulous that girls are playing sports and that girls' sports are on TV and all that stuff? And that's not enough anymore.
Right.
That's not enough anymore.
Yeah, now you care. Now they care. Now they care for them to really win, not just,
yes. And that's progress. I mean, I think, they trashed the men's team, they trashed the women's team. Now, I saw one person put on Twitter, was kind of funny, that it was kind of a funny, snarky tweet, but somebody wrote, well, the women's team finally reached equality. They're just as bad as the U.S. men's team, which is, ooh, ouch, harsh. But in a way, to see the coach being questioned, to see the players being questioned, to see some of the biggest stars on the team being trashed by the fans and by the media, I think that is a sign of progress for women's sports, that people do care now, and that they're, they have expectations. They have expectations. The expectations are not just that you're going to go out there and represent your country and everyone's going to wear red, white, and blue and be happy. No, they need to go out with the talent that they have. They should have done much better than they did. And it's also a sign of the progress of the game, of the women's game. These other teams that have played so well. I mean, Haiti to play so well, against England, and Jamaica to play so well. I mean, for two Caribbean nations to play as well as they did. And these are countries that don't have the money. The Jamaican team had to do a GoFundMe, which is totally embarrassing, that a women's World Cup team had to do a GoFundMe in order to travel to the World Cup. And the Haitian team had a lot of obstacles, also financial and security obstacles and everything. And for those Caribbean teams to go into that World Cup and play as well as they did against teams like France and England, that was spectacular. And then Colombia is having an amazing amazing showing at this World Cup with this Linda Caicedo. She is incredible. She's just an amazing story, an incredible player. A lot of young emerging players are coming from other countries, and from Africa too. Nigeria had a great game the other day. So I think it's wonderful. It's not just USA, China, Sweden, and Germany anymore. There are a lot of teams now that are playing well, and the US, they better espabilarse. They have to, they need to step it up, because what they did was not enough. And they have some really good talent now, young talent, Sophia Smith and Trinity Rodman and whatever. But I think what was missing, this is maybe me just playing psychologist here. I think that the teams in the past, and I don't want to make this all into like a gender studies class here, but I do think that young women in all fields today maybe don't have that fight and that passion to the desire, because they've come up with more privileges than women and girls had before. So the women's teams before, and I'm talking way back to like Michelle Akers and Julie Foudy and the Abby Wambachs of the world, they were beasts. I mean, it wasn't just that they were great players, because there are great players now on the team who are super athletic. They wanted it so badly. They were so hungry. They were so hungry to prove something. They were so hungry to put women's sports on the map. They were so hungry to make people pay attention to women's sports. And now, in a way, it's great. The younger women don't have that burden anymore. People are watching them. They're coming in already, having endorsements, and people know their names already, and people already knew who Trinity Rodman was, Sophia Smith. So on one hand, it's wonderful that they're coming in without that giant burden that women of the past have had. On the other hand, I think that burden that the Brandy Chastains and the Julie Foudy and the Michelle Akers and the Abby Wambach,
Mia Hamm, and the greats from before,
yeah, those women were playing for something really big. They weren't just playing for the United States in the World Cup. It was for something that was more meaningful to them. And as women have gotten more and more rights, and young girls, they just sort of expect it. They're entitled. They're much more entitled than the women used to be. They're getting equal prize money and things like that. And so they're going to have to just step it up. I really felt like this team it didn't click in the way that other teams did. They had talent. There's no question they have talent in a country the size of ours, with the women's sports as good as they are. They had the talent. I feel that there was something else missing. And then the coach, there were a lot of questions about the fact that he barely used any substitutes. I don't know why, but he just was a coach who just doesn't like to sub out a lot. And some people felt that Megan Rapinoe was too old, and that she was, shouldn't have been playing, that she was past her prime, and Alex Morgan, didn't do as well as she had done before. So I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a lot of changes going forward, definitely a lot of changes. But I think the mentality has to change, because the women's teams now are better. We just saw, I mean, you're looking at these teams we're talking about: Colombia, Jamaica, Haiti, Nigeria, and then you've got, of course, England and Sweden and Spain, these teams, and France. These are all great teams, but there are a lot of emerging nations, and the US can't rest on their laurels. They can't rest on their laurels. No.
It seems it reminds me a little bit. Remember when, the US basketball team for so long was so far ahead of the world. And then finally, like in the late 2000s, everyone sort of caught up. Europe caught up, everybody. And then it was like the kick in the pants that everybody needed to kind of get it going and really reinforce.
Yeah, the
So,
redeem
so
team. So
a
now the
redeem
U.S. national
team,
team needs a redeem team
exactly,
next time.
and they might be primed for it because, like you said, there's all these stars that are on the way out, and now it's almost like a transitional period over the next 3-4 years where you're going to see these young stars really become the leaders of the next wave, and maybe they're the ones, maybe they're the redeem team of sorts for 2027 and beyond that gets the team back to the top where they're so used to being.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but it was a huge disappointment. I mean, to see the US lose in the round of 16, wow. I mean, it was to Sweden. Obviously, Sweden is a very good team and always has been, and they've always been a nemesis of theirs, really. They've been kind of a thorn in their side. But even so, for them to barely score, to struggle as much as they did with the talent that they had, it was a huge disappointment.
Well, we transitioned back to our home team here at Inter Miami, and we're going to close our final segment here. Looking ahead, the quarterfinal round is just around the corner, Michelle, 8:30 Friday night, back at Drive Pink Stadium, back at the friendly confines, the friendlier confines, since they're getting some of that on the road too, but nothing like the home stadium, the packed house there. I'm sure it'll be, again, wild atmosphere like before. They're facing Charlotte, another MLS club that they're very familiar with from these past few years. Tell us a little bit about Charlotte and what do you think about this matchup going in, and what can we expect?
Yeah, I just think that it doesn't matter what the Charlotte Inter Miami games of the past mean absolutely nothing, because this is
Right.
not the same team. This is not the same team. I really, if I were Charlotte, I'd be worried. I would be worried. I think they struggled to get into this round. Although Miami also had a tough game. Miami was exposed too. Inter Miami, Dallas exposed them. Dallas played fearless against them, exposed them. There are some things that they need to clean up, and Tata Martino said it after the game. He said, look, yes, we've been fortunate to win these 4 games and to still be alive in this tournament, but please don't think that this is a finished product, even though you've got Messi, Busquets, and Alba now. And by the way, Alba, he makes a really big difference. It's incredible how far up he goes. He's a left back officially, but half the time he was right there at the touchline sending crosses in. And he played a huge role. I mean, on the left side there, he's really he's a tremendous player. So, but even with having him and Busquets and Messi out there, Tata said, that the team is still not finished, that they still need another 20 days. He said 15 days is not enough. And Alba's really only been there 1 week. He said 15 days is not enough to make a team, that he wants to see this team in 20 days. He thinks in 20 days, this team really could be a great team. But in the meantime, they're going to be at home. I just believe that the team is just so fired up and so confident right now with the players that they have, with Messi, pulling out miracle after miracle, magic trick after magic trick. Just when I thought it was going to end against Dallas, they do it again. So, at home, I think their chances are even better. After that, they may not play at home, because the only way they play at home, if they were to win on Friday, then the Tuesday game, they would maybe have to play at Philadelphia on the road. The only way they would play at home is if they're playing the Mexican team, because all the games are being played on MLS stadiums, which is not really that fair to the Liga MX, but those are the conditions that they agreed to for this tournament, that all the games are played in the United States. So if Inter Miami has to play against a Mexican team, it will be here. Otherwise, it's going to be on the road. But again, as we just saw in Dallas, I think there are so many Messi fans that are going to be wherever they go, whether it's Philly, wherever they go. There are going to be people in either Inter Miami jerseys or Argentina jerseys. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I would still pick Miami over Charlotte in this game.
Well, what's interesting too, assuming, let's say they do get past Charlotte, like I think we both expect them to, the heavy hitters are coming after that. You just mentioned one of them right there. I mean, you've got either, let's say Philadelphia beats Querétaro, I believe I pronounced that right.
Right.
Then you're talking a team that was in the MLS Cup final last year, going down to the wire in PKs, and then lingering on the other side of the bracket are the defending MLS champions, LAFC. So yes, the heavy hitters of this league are coming after that. These are teams championship caliber teams. So it'll be interesting
And the
to see
best Mexican teams, and the better Mexican teams too, who came in, who had buys in the early rounds or whatever. So yeah, the heavy hitters are coming. It's going to be really interesting to see. Miami did beat Philly at the very beginning of this season. People forget, probably way back. Remember when Phil Neville was the coach and they started the season 2-0 and they beat Philadelphia and Montreal, which were two of the top teams last year. And everybody got so excited because they started off 2-0 and I think they scored 2 goals in each of those games. And everyone thought, oh my goodness, this is a new Inter Miami. And then everything, started to tank after that. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup against Charlotte. I do think that Miami has to be really careful, especially like on the counterattacks. They got exposed pretty good, because the guys are going forward so much. Like Jordi Alba is playing forward so much, it does leave a big space behind him. That if the ball gets back, people have to, run back and chase it. And that you saw what happened with Robert Taylor with that own goal. I mean, there was kind of nobody there, and he was racing back to try to clear it, and he ends up, scoring an own goal. But the reason he was sprinting so fast is because they were exposed and there was a lot of space there, and he was trying to save a goal. So, they're going to have to be really, really careful. They definitely have some things they need to work on. They are not, as Tata said, we are not yet a reliable team. He said, I would not call us a reliable team. We're undefeated. We're 4-0 with Messi, but we're not a reliable team. So they need to work toward being a reliable team, especially on the defensive end.
Yeah, it's not a finished product by any stretch, but in a way that's a good thing because we've seen a lot of good already. And knowing that it's not a finished product, we haven't seen this team peak yet. So that's exciting, a prospect as well, to think the ceiling is still way higher, or at least that's the hope once all the pieces gel and the system really, they get acclimated to the system properly. So
right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, let's see how it turns out on Friday night. Catch it at 8:30 at Drive Pink Stadium against Charlotte. And as Michelle informed you a few minutes ago, if they win Tuesday against either one of those teams, either Querétaro if they pull it off, or Philadelphia Union, the MLS runner-up from last season. But we'll be back next week to recap the matchup against Charlotte and potentially the matchup against one of those teams. And Michelle, at that point, we're talking Leagues Cup championship.
About the final. At that point, we're talking about previewing the final of the World Cup. Not the World Cup. No, let's not go too crazy. Let's not go too crazy. The Leagues Cup, not quite the World Cup. Right. But yeah, it's exciting. It's brought some interest to this. Without Messi, I don't know that this tournament would be capturing everybody's attention that much, because American teams, MLS teams play Liga MX teams all the time. It's not really that big of a deal, but it's become a big deal because of Messi. I really believe that having him in the bracket just raises the profile of the whole tournament. So that's been a good thing. I'm sure it's been good for Apple, and it's been good for MLS and Liga MX as well. They're getting a lot of exposure. So yeah, we'll see what happens on Friday night, and we'll see the weather. Miami also seems to have terrible weather on game nights, so I'll be curious to see what the weather forecast is.
Yeah, let's not have a lightning delay again, please, at 8:30. If we could,
right?
If we can send up that prayer somewhere and hope that doesn't happen one more time. So. But we'll be back next week. For Michelle Kaufman, I'm Andre Fernandez. Once again, thanks everybody for watching. You can catch this at MiamiHerald.com and of course on YouTube. And also you can listen to the pod version on Spotify, iTunes, wherever your favorite podcatcher is. We will once again be back covering the next round, hopefully, of Inter Miami, and we'll see you on the next episode of Inside Inter Miami next week.